Shalom. Okay, so we are on. Uh, Let me just make sure this is showing up correctly. Okay, so we are on Jonah 4:1, and please like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. And please consider joining us on the Discord server. I am also very active on Paul Vanderklay's Discord server, so I also welcome you to join that one. Okay, Jonah 4:1. Vayera el Yonah ra'a gedola vayichar lo. Okay, pretty simple sentence. So conjunctive vav, it's in the imperfect, but obviously it's being flipped in context. The root is resh ayin ayin, which is the root for evil. So, I mean, he, you know, it seemed bad to Yonah, is I guess how I would. Yeah, it displeased. He didn't like it, right? So what exactly? How exactly you want to translate that? But it was bad to Yonah. Yeah. The preposition is the L with the aleph, not ayin. Yonah is his name. Ra'a gedola. So obviously Ra'a, that evil, right, is um, using the same root as as vayera. So in Semitic languages, the duplication is for um, emphasis. So Ra'a Gedola, and Gedola is written b'milui vav, as you would expect it. Great, right? Very much so. Vayichar. So the root is chet resh hey, I want to say. Chet resh hey, yes. See, I get things right every once in a while. So again, it's an imperfect, but it's getting flipped. Charon off, it means, I think literally it means to flare, like your nose flares, right? But it means to be angry. So vayichar became angry, lo. That's the preposition lamed with the suffix third person masculine singular. Um, I mean, pretty simple stuff. Let's see what King James does with this. But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was very angry. Okay? NIV. But to Jonah, this seemed very wrong, and he became angry. So, actually, I like this as better. That actually seems to go along with the language better, so I like the NIV better. Let's see what Chabad does with this. Now it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was grieved. And Rashi explains the displeasing was because, and this is apparently from Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, which is a midrash, I'm pretty sure, that people would now say, the nations will say that I am a false prophet because his prophecy did not come true. And we have a rule in Judaism that good prophecies must come true, bad prophecies don't necessarily come true. Okay, next verse. Vayitpalel el Havaya vayomer Anna Havaya halo ze devari ad heyoti ad admati al ken kidamti livroach tarshisha ki yadati ki ata kel chanun verachom erech apayim verach chesed v'nicham al hara. Okay, so this is again, something I would say is pretty poetic, like the tefillah that we had, I believe, in chapter 2, right, where Jonah was praying to God. Similarly, this is vayit palel, the reflexive of the verb to judge, like we discussed there. Um, the root is pe lamed lamed. El is the preposition of the aleph. Havaya is the tetragrammaton. Vayomer, so this is the less harsh way of saying the word to say, aleph mem resh, in the imperfect, and in context it's getting flipped to from the imperfect to the perfect. Anna is an interjection. I usually translate it as please, sometimes translated as now. Um, it's an interjection. Havaya is the tetragrammaton again. Hello. So in Hebrew, sometimes in order to turn something into a question, you start it with the article. So this is the word lo, curiously written b'milui vav, which isn't normal for the word lo. For the word not. And it has the article on it, which here is telling you that it's a question, right? So they're translating as was not. Ze is the pronoun masculine singular. Devari. So this is the other way of saying to say, dalet bet resh. Usually devar isn't, we usually it's a thing. Sometimes it means word, but here it has the possessive first person common singular. This is my word. Isn't this what I said, right? But it's a noun. It's a little strange, but I think it is in this form basically in order to alliterate and rhyme. He's speaking poetically. That's why it's not normal Hebrew. Let's put it that way. Ad is a preposition meaning onto. Heyoti. So this again, very strange way of saying I was, right? Heyoti, in my being. Heyot is the infinitive of to be, right? And my being, right? Al is the preposition with the ayin, not aleph. Adamati. So Adama is one of the ways we say land. This is I often translate it as clay because it is related to the word Edom, meaning red, Adama, right? And Adam, right, he was formed from the Adama, so this is the same one. Admati, my clay, my land, my country. Al is again preposition with the ayin. Ken, so ken means so or yes, but al ken means that's why, right? So therefore, right? Al ken kidamti. So this is so the root is kuf daled mem, which means forward or earlier or before, right? It sometimes in the Bible it's actually used also to mean east because that's where the sun rises. But kidamti, right? They're saying it's in the PL, so most roots will either be in the PL, which is the intensive, or the kal, or the simple pal. And kidamti, I guess we say mekadem, we don't say kodem. Any kodem? Yeah, maybe we do. Well, the PL is a little bit more of an intensive construction. The pa'al would have been um, would have been kadamti, right? Kidamti, kadamti, very similar. Um, I I was early, maybe. I mean, they say previously, or he's explaining that's why I ran away, right? Livroach. So the root here is bet resh chet, which is what was used in chapter one to describe him fleeing, right? It means to it means to uh, run away, and so it has a prepositional lamed like the infinitive often does, and this is the infinitive form of bedresh. Tarshisha, the hey at the end is not the feminine singular, third person feminine singular like they're putting it. It is it is the directional hey. So if you look here, you will see suffix directional hey. The directional hey suffix at the end of a term expresses the concept of movement either in space or in time toward the word, usually a person or thing that takes the suffix, right? So Tarshisha towards Tarshish. So that's one of the things that the morphology on Bible Hub reliably gets wrong, unfortunately. Um, Key, right? Because it's a conjunction, because, for, then. Yeah. Yadati, so the root is Yud Daled Ayin, um, which is to know, which is da'at, right? Like the tree of knowledge, and it's considered a more intimate form of knowledge in the Hebrew. Yadati, it's in the perfect. I knew, right? First person common singular. Ki, again, same conjunction. Ata is the pronoun second person masculine singular. And this formula here, Kel Chanun Rachum Erech Apayim V'Rach Chesed Ve'emet, right? That is harkens back to Moses, um, right after the sin of the golden calf, I want to say, where he says this a very similar thing, and this is something that shows up in Hebrew prayer a lot. So this is it's a long Jewish address to God, a sort of prayer that's well known and often repeated, right? So Kel is one of the 7 names that cannot be erased. It's the shortest one, so this is not the preposition. Chanun comes from the root het nun nun. Chonen, so tachanunim can mean, well, chen, it means grace. Chen means grace, right? Chonen means kind. Chanun, right? I mean, you can use your concordance here maybe, because yeah, gracious is I think that's a good way of translating it. If you want that specific word, I would say probably go ahead and look in your in the concordance. Verahum, so conjunctive of, and rahum, the root is resh het mem, which means mercy, right? It also means womb, right? Rahamim, right? Is one of the kel rahamim is one of the ways we refer to God as having mercy, right? Rahmanut. Again, you might want to use your concordance here, or actually also look up where Moses uses the same formula. Erech apayim. So erech actually means long, I believe. Yeah, it means long. It's an adjective meaning long. But here, erech apayim. So af, like I said, is refers to the nose, and I always think of flaring noises, but apayim, erech apayim is a it's a common saying. I mean, let's see, erech shows up 15 times in the Bible, and in pretty much every single one of them, it's erech apayim, right? And erech apayim is usually translated as slow to anger, taking a long time to get angry, I guess. It's part of this formula. Nehemiah 9, Exodus 34:6. That's where Moses mentions the same thing, right? Vayavor Havaya al panav vayikra Havaya kel rachom v'chanun erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet notzer chesed la'alafim. See, even I have it translated. Notzer chesed la'alafim notzer avon v'fesha v'chata v'nakeh. And these are referred to as the 13 midot harachamim, the 13 characteristics of God's mercy. And yeah, so it's used in Jewish prayer a lot, and that's what he's referring to. But erech literally means long. Here it means, and sorry about the ambulance going by. My office is near a hospital and on a major street, so it tends to happen a lot. Okay. So erech apayim, right? Slow to anger. It's one construct. It's just a turn of phrase that shows up a lot. Yeah. Verav. So conjunctive vav, rav meaning great, right? Chesed is usually translated as loving kindness, right? So again, rav chesed is it's an adjective and a construct with a noun. Yeah, rav chesed. V'niham al hara. Now, this is where he departs from the formula that Moses gave, and so conjunctive vav, and he references niham. Now, nun het mem is the it's the word that's used in the Bible when God changes his mind, right? Obviously, there is the theological problem of God changing his mind in Judaism, because obviously God is eternal. So what does it mean that God changes his mind? We don't actually believe God works that way. So this is the verb that's used, which it means to comfort, right? There's that famous line in Isaiah, "Nachamu, nachamu et ami," right? Comfort, oh comfort my people, right? And that is the verb that's used in the Hebrew to refer to when God decides not to do something, not to punish people as they deserve, I guess, when God is merciful in that manner. And like I said before, so, we have this thing in prophecy where bad prophecies don't have to come true, because God can relent. God can be menachem, and that's the word there. Again, you might want to use your concordance. I did point this out before. It's one of those words that's worthy of study in the Hebrew, I would say, especially. Okay, al is the preposition with the ayin. Ha-ra'ah, like the previous one, right? The evil or the bad, right? The ra'ah, the evil. Okay, let's see what King James does with this verse. And he prayed unto the Lord and said, I pray thee, O Lord. I pray thee. I guess the Anna they're translating as I pray thee. Yeah, I guess. Um, O Lord, was not this my saying, right? When I was yet in my country, therefore I fled before unto Tarshish, for I knew that thou art a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and of great kindness, and repentest thee of the evil. Okay. NIV, he prayed to the Lord. Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? This is what I tried to forestall by fleeing. So the kidamti they're trying to say I tried to forestall. That's which is understandable, I guess. By fleeing to Tarshish, I know that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. So they're translating chesed as rav chesed as abounding in love. I don't like using that because when you try to translate that back into the Hebrew, you would use ahava, not chesed. Okay, so Chabad, and he prayed to the Lord and said, Please, O Lord, was this not my contention while I was still on my land? For this reason I had hastened to flee to Tarshish, for I know, no thank you, that you are a gracious and merciful God, slow to anger, with much kindness and relenting of evil. Yep, okay. Verse 3. Ve'ata havaya kach na et nafshi mimeni ki tov moti mechayai. Can you be a little less dramatic? I'm joking. Okay, so conjunctive of et means time, ata means this time, right now. Havaya is the tetragrammaton. Kach comes from lakachat, kuf chet hey, which means to take, right? And it's one of those primitive ones which gets kind of I mean it's very, very common, so it gets conjugated in tiny bit strange ways. I think it's kaf het al. So they're saying the root is actually lamed kuf het. These primitive roots, their conjugations don't follow rules usually. Oftentimes, latet, to give, is a big one, and this is similarly kind of difficult. But I mean, it's the same one. It's in the imperative. It's in the command form, right? He's telling God take, right? Yeah, the precise form is irregular. Okay, na. Again, it's an interjection, please or now. Anna is similar, Et is the direct object marker. Nafshi, so nefesh is one of the ways we refer to the soul. We refer to it as the lowest level of the soul. Mimeni, so prepositional mem, min means from, right? Mimeni means from me, right? It's a common word that's used a lot. Ki is the conjunction for because. Tov, it is better. right? It means good. And they're reading the to be there because there is no present tense of the verb to be in Hebrew. And tov, excuse me, as usual, is written bemilui with the vav. Okay. Moti michayai. So mavet mem vet vav taf is death, right? Lamut, to die. Moti is my death, and it's normal for it to be with bemilui vav. So prepositional mem. Chai means life. Chayim is plural, but usually we write chayim in the plural. And chayai is my life, lives. It is in the plural, but that's normal. Okay, so it's better if I die than to live, right? Okay, and that punctuation here, the samech, it tells you that it is a setuma. So there are two forms of spaces that are kind of like paragraph and chapter marks, I would say. The setuma isn't a full break, so it's just kind of like putting a indentation and then it continues. Whereas a petucha means that you leave an open break, meaning you start the next word on the next line. And this is a setuma. This is the closed break. Okay, let's look at King James, verse 3. Therefore now, O Lord, take, I beseech thee, my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. Okay, I can go along with that. NIV. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live. Okay. And Chabad. And now, O Lord, take now my soul from me, for my death is better than my life. That's a more literal way of translating it. Okay, next verse. Vayomer Havaya hahetev charalach. Interesting. So conjunctive of, this is the imperfect being switched in context by the vav. The less harsh way of speaking, aleph mem resh, right? So God said. Havaya is obviously the tetragrammaton. And again, it's using that article at the beginning to turn it into a question, right? So this is kind of like a question mark there, right? Ha-hetev, right? And hetev is the hefil infinitive absolute of tough tet vav bet, I want to say. Yud taf tet bet, to be good. So this is one of those things that makes me want to say that, you know, Hebrew has two-letter roots, because yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that yod being the first root there, but I understand it. Anyway, obviously the root is good, right? It is in the hefil. I would agree it's in the causative, right? Infinitive is, and here hetev charalach. It's kind of saying, is it very much, right? And the reason I think it's using the word hetev is because the previous verse, right, in verse 4:3, he said, "Ki tov moti mechayai," right? So he uses the word tov And God also uses the word tov kind of as very, right? They're saying, is it right for you to hahetev charalach? Is it good for you to be angry? I would probably have translated this, "Are you very angry?" Right? I understand how they're doing it, but I think this is mostly reflecting the previous verse. Charon, right, like we discussed before, is to flare, right? The lach here, interestingly enough, is the second person feminine singular, not the masculine singular, and that sometimes happens in the Hebrew for poetic reasons, I would say, but people may want to darshan that one. You might want to try to figure out what's going on there, because it's actually God is speaking to Jonah in the feminine. Okay. Let's see what King James does with this. Then said the Lord, "Doest thou well to be angry?" Okay, I can see that. NIV. But the Lord replied, I don't like the word reply because in Hebrew there is a word which means reply. This was only said. Is it right for you to be angry? Okay. I actually prefer this, which is how Chabad did it. And the Lord said, "Are you deeply grieved?" Right? Because I don't think that that's how I would translate Heitev here. I would just translate Heitev as being a modifier of the charon, of the anger, right? Are you very angry? That's how I would have translated it. And they say, are you deeply grieved, right? But I understand why and how they translated it the other way. So it's up to you. Okay, let's keep on going. There was no Rashi there. No, okay, 5. Vayetze Yonah min ha'ir, vayeshev mikedem la'ir, vaya'as lo sham sukkah, vayeshev tachteha, batzel ad asher yir'eh ma yihyeh ba'ir. Okay, so vayetze, so the conjunctive of the root is yud tzaddik aleph, which means to go out, to go out. Yeah, all right. So he left, right? Calling consecutive imperfect. Yeah, it's in the imperfect, so it's being yetze. Yeah, so it's being flipped in context. Yonah is his name. Mean is a preposition meaning of, right? Ha'ir. So it has the article, and ir means city. Vayeshev, so conjunctive vav, it is in the imperfect. Leshevet, so the root is shinbet hey, I want to say, to, or yashav, right? Yud shin bet. Okay. Again, this is one of those things that makes me want to say there's 2-letter roots in Hebrew. He settled, he sat, right? Yoshev, yeah. Leshevet. It's funny, the infinitive of to sit is leshevet. I don't know. Sometimes these 2/3-letter roots are more difficult than the solid 3-letter roots that there are 3-letter roots there, right? 3 strong roots. The weak roots are what the weak radicals are the ones that always cause problems. Vayeshev, and he sat, right? It's obvious what he did. The question is exactly how you're doing the morphology there. Mi kedem, so prepositional mem, like I said, kedem before um, well, this root, while it means early, right? It can also mean east because that's where the sun rises and earlier, right? So kedem, mi kedem is often used in the Bible to refer to the east side. La'ir, prepositional lamed with the article, right? That's in the vocalization. So, like I've said before, sometimes the consonantal text will give you that there is an article there. Sometimes it's the vocalization which tells you that the Masoretic tradition is that there is an article there. It would be le'ir if there wasn't an article. So it's of the city. Veya'as, so conjunctive vav. The root is ein sin he, which means to do or to make, right? And he made. Yeah, and it's getting flipped in context. Lo, for himself, right? Prepositional lamed, third person masculine singular. Sham means there. Sukkah, I would have expected the sukkah to be bemilui vav, but it's written with a kubutz instead of a shuruk. So a sukkah is so there's the festival of booths. That's Sukkot. It is a shelter, right? I think schach sin. Samech chaf chaf. No, samech. Right. It comes from the verb sachach, right? Samech chaf chaf. Why? It's very right. So, I guess so. That is the root, but apparently that root itself doesn't really show up in the Bible. But a sukkah is so. Sochech, right, means to cover, right, and a sukkah is something with a covering, right. Vayeshev, so again, like we had before, tachteha. So tachat means under. Tachteha means under, well, literally her. Sukkah is feminine. So under it, right? Under the sukkah. Tachteha. Batzel. So prepositional bet with an article. Tzel means shade. In the shade. Ad, so means until. It's a preposition. Here, ad asher yireh, right? Until, right? Asher is the pronoun relative. Ad asher, until, right? Basically, until, till, yeah. Ad asher. Yireh, so I'm not really sure that this makes sense. Yireh here seems to me to be the imperfect of the nif'al of resh. So let's use the constructor here. The root is resh aleph hey, and I thought this is in the nif'al. Yireh. Yira'eh would be the nif'al. Clearly. Yira'eh would be the nif'al. Let's see what the pa'al looks like. Because they're saying it's just in the pa'al. So let's see. Yep, you're right. Yeah, so I thought it would be in the passive in the Nephal, but it is. It appears. Yeah, the constructor is putting it in the same way. It's in the cull. It's in the simple form, and that's why I use the constructor, so I can double check um, exactly how the vocalization goes based on conjugation. Asher yireh, so ad asher, until he sees, right? He might see, I guess, yeah, he sees. Ma is the interrogatory what? Yeh, again, in the imperfect of to be, right? What will be. Ba'ir, in the city with the article. Okay, let's see what King James says with that. So Jonah went out of the city and sat on the east side of the city, and there made him a booth and sat under it in the shadow till he might see what would become of the city. Yeah. I would say in the city, but yeah. NIV. Jonah had gone out and sat down at a place east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Okay. Okay. And Jonah had gone out of the city and had stationed himself on the east side of the city. I'm not sure why they use the word stationed. And there he made himself a hut and sat under it in the shade until he would see what would happen in the city. Yeah. Pretty clear. I mean, Vayiman Havaya Elokim Kikayon Veyal Ma'al Leona Lihyot Tzel al Rosho Lahatzil lo Mera'ato Vayesmach Yona al Hakikayon Simha Gedola. Okay, so the famous Kikayon. So, Vayiman, the root is mem nun hey, I want to say, like manna, right? So, well, okay. So limnot, it is mem nun hey. I'm pretty sure manna comes from the same root, but it also means to count, to number. Right. Asher lo yimaned, right? The stars, which cannot be counted. To count, number, reckon. Yeah. Well, provide, I would say, is what it is here. And it's in the imperfect. It's getting flipped by the vav at the beginning. Right. So God numbered, counted, set up, however you want to say it. Vayiman Havaya Elokim. So the Tetragrammaton and Elokim is, so this is very common. The Lord your God, right? The Lord God. It's very common throughout the Bible that you get this Havaya Elokim combination. But so God made a kikayon. Now, how you translate kikayon is a good question. So, and apparently it was like a huge deal. So, Jerome is the person who translated the Bible from the Greek to the Latin, and initially he was using the Septuagint, he actually went to Israel and learned Hebrew among Jews and decided to start using the Masoretic text um, for his Vulgate translation, um, to translate it from the Hebrew. And we have correspondences between Augustine and Jerome because Augustine was of the opinion that, excuse me, if was of the opinion that if the Septuagint was good enough for the apostles, it was good enough for him, and that Jerome should continue to do his translations from the Septuagint instead of using the Hebrew. And so this was a disagreement that they had. And one of the reasons which Augustine gives is because apparently, so whether you translate kikayon as squash or gourd is a question. And doing it in the different ways had caused a lot of people to get angry, and apparently like people had gotten like into fistfights and stuff. So in one of Augustine's letters to Jerome, he writes and he's like, people got mad that you changed how you translate kikayon. Well, the rabbinic tradition is actually that the kikayon was something that was made specifically for this particular episode, and only for that. So there is this idea, I believe it's from the Midrash, which says that the kikayon was actually made during the 6 days of creation, solely for this thing. It's not a it's well, there is such thing as shem and kik. So there was a sort of oil that was used, but which may have been of a similar plant. But what exactly the kikayon is, I think we'll see that the Chabad translation will just leave it as kikayon, and then Christians can have fistfights over whether it's squash or gourd. And I mean, let's see what the concordance here is doing. A plant, perhaps castor oil plant. All right. And so King James Version here says gourd. Compare Assyrian, a garden plant, usually ricinus. Castor oil tree. Kiki in Egypt is the castor oil, and Shem and Kik from the Talmud, like I said, right, is the Kik oil, and Kurbita, yeah, so gourd, maybe. Yeah. So generally, Hebrew Jewish translations will leave it as kikayon. Ve'ya'al. So the root is al ayin lamed hey, which means to go up. This is and it went up. The kikayon went up, right? Well, made it come up would be in the hefil, and I don't think this is in the hefil. It's in the kal. Yeah, me'al. So prepositional mem, al is the preposition with ayin aleph from over, right? V'yal ma'al leona. So it went over Yonah. I mean, he was already in a sukkah. This is a very figurative thing. So why exactly he got so happy is not clear. I'm sure there's lots of midrashim on this. Okay. From Ma'al Yonah, from above onto Yonah. Um, that's prepositional lamed in Yonah. His name, Lihiyot, right? Which is a prepositional lamed with the infinitive of to be, all right? So that it might be, yeah. Tzel means shade. Al, again, the preposition with ayin, not aleph. Rosh o, rosh means head. Rosh o is his head. Lehatzil, so the root is hey tzadik lamed, which means to, or is it tzadik lamed hey? No, it's hey. Well, let's see. Which means to save. Not, nun tzadik lamed, not sal. Yeah, okay. To strip, plunder, deliver oneself, to be delivered, snatch away, deliver. Okay. I would have just said rescue. I don't know why they didn't use the word rescue. But they didn't. I would have said rescue. Anyway, lahatzil, so it's in the hefil, it's in the causative, to cause to be, right? Lahatzil lo mer'ato, to deliver him from his misery, right? Ra means bad, ra'ato, what is bad to him, right? Lahatzil lo, right? So prepositional lamed, and again the prepositional lamed here. So to save him from his misery, yeah. I mean to deliver him from his misery, yeah. Prepositional mem, ra means evil, ra'ato is his evil or things that are making him unhappy. Okay. Vayismach, so conjunctive of, the root here is sin mem het, which means happy, right? And he became very happy. Vayismach, right? The imperfect is getting flipped by the conjunctive of in context, right? So he became very happy, right? Vayismach, Yonah, again, is his name. Al is the preposition with the ayin. Ha-kikayon, the kikayon, the plant, however you want to translate it. Simcha gedola. So you'll see that it's using the same thing, right? He became glad, a very simcha gedola, great festivity, right? A simcha in Hebrew, especially in modern Hebrew, a simcha is actually like a party, right? You invite people to your simchas. So like a wedding would be considered a simcha or a bar mitzvah, right? But simcha gedola, right? Gadol means big. It's written ben milui vav there, which isn't strange. That's what I would expect. And since simcha is feminine, gedola is feminine, right? So he became very happy. This made him really happy, which I don't quite understand because he was already in a booth. So it's not like, I don't know. I guess the booth wasn't shady enough for him. Wasn't cool enough. Okay, let's see what King James is with this. And the Lord God prepared a gourd and made it to come up over Jonah, that it might be a shadow over his head, to deliver him from his grief. So Jonah was exceedingly glad of the gourd. Yeah, if you're going to translate it as gourd. NIV. Then the Lord God provided a leafy plant, and there's a note there, and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head, to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the plant. Let's see what the note says. The precise identification of this plant is uncertain, also in verses 7, 9, and 10. So there you go. And Chabad. Now the Lord God appointed a kikayon, and it grew up over Jonah to be shade over his head, to save him from his discomfort. And Jonah was overjoyed with the kikayon. Right? You see, they don't translate it. Let's read the Chabad, the Rashi's here. Vayiman, an expression of preparation. That's apparently from the Targum Yonatan. To save him from his discomfort, from the heat of the sun. Kikayon, a plant that grows high with many branches, and it affords shade, and that is its name. It's called a kikayon. Right. So don't get into any fist fights over what the word kikayon means. Vayaman ha'elokim tola'at ba'alot hashachar lamacharat v'tach et hakikayon vayivash. So sad. So again, vayiman, again appointed, right? Exact same word. Ha-Elokim, right? And the Kabbalists will note that here it's not Havaya Elokim. The previous one was Havaya Elokim, and here it's just Ha-Elokim, right? So God, Ha-Elokim, right? There is the article there. Tola'at. So Tola'at is a worm. I'm not actually sure if that has a root that it's from. Tolea. From an unused word. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. Tola'at means see Hebrew Yalla, to devour. Okay. I guess. Or Shani. Why Shani? Oh, that's, yeah, that. I am not sure why Tola'at here, but used only in this connection of the color from it, and clothes dyed therefore crimson, often with ellipses of Shani, the crimson rub. I am not sure what they mean. Oh, okay. Tolat Hashani. Oh, I see. So, I see. So a strip of scarlet. Okay, interesting. Okay, I see. So Shani is a crimson cord, a strip of crimson. And apparently Talat gets used with that. I actually think the reason why it's using this word for worm is because it alliterates with ba'alot, right? So alot hashachar, literally ayin lamed he means to raise. Alot hashachar is when the sun comes up, right? So ba would be the preposition. They're saying there's no article there, even though there's a patach there, probably because of that ayin. Ayin does strange things with the because you wouldn't say be'alot. I'm not sure about that. Ba'alot hashachar. Well, in any case, I mean, alot hashachar has the article there with shachar. Shachar is the morning. Shin chet aresh. Shacharit is the morning prayers, right? Ba'alot hashachar, when the sun was coming up, right? La macharat, so prepositional lamed with an article. Machar means tomorrow. Macharat is in macharat, the next day. Yeah. Interesting. Lamacharat means kind of like, I actually assumed that it was in construct, the following day. Mi macharat, yeah, it gets used in Genesis as well. The next day, macharat. From the same as machar, which means tomorrow. Right. Right. Lamacharat. Vetach. So conjunctive vav. Tach means to strike. So they're saying damaged. Nun chaf hey. Right. Lahakot. Right. Makot are lashes. The tach, and it hit and it damaged. It struck. Yeah. Et is the direct object marker. When you have hey chaf hey, right? It's both the first and the third radicals are weak radicals. You'll often get these really short words like tach, right? Which are hard to kind of know what the three radicals are of the root. Et means the direct object marker. Ha kikayon, right? The plant. Vayivash. So yud bet shin means dry. This one, it's in the imperfect. It's getting flipped. It became dry. It dried up, right? Yavasha is land, right? In Genesis 1, where it says that God made it separated between the land and the seas, right? The Yavasha. So it became dry, withered. Okay, let's see what King James does with this. But God, so they translated the and as a but, which, yes, you could. God prepared a worm when the morning rose the next day, and it smote the gourd that it withered. Yeah. NIV, but at dawn the next day, God provided a worm which chewed the plant so that it withered. I don't like the word chewed. Tach is from the Hakot. But okay. Chabad. Now God appointed a worm at the rise of the dawn on the morrow, and the worm attacked the kikayon, and it withered. And they're getting that from Rashi. The word attacked, the worm attacked the kikayon, or yach. Where one would say for masculine, yach, he struck, he would say for feminine, vatach, she struck. So yach is when Moses hits the rock, right? Hach al hasela. So he's saying because the worm, the word tola'at, is in the feminine, right? Worm is in feminine. That's why it says vetach instead of yach. In case you were wondering. Okay. 4:8. Vayehi kizroach hashemesh vayeman Elokim ruach kadim charishit vatach hashemesh al rosh Yonah vayit alaf vayishal et nafsho lamut. Vayomer tov moti mechayai. Okay. So vayehi, right? This is the imperfect of the verb to be. It's getting flipped because of the conjunctive of at the beginning. The prepositional chaf at the beginning, right? And then zayin resh chet is I think it means zerach means to rise up. Let's see what they say. Border maybe zerach. Zarach, to rise, to come forth. Yeah, it's almost always used with sun. Yeah, I'm looking here and it's used with the sun often. Zrichat hachama, right? Hashemesh. Shemesh means sun, right? So as the sun was rising, Mizrach actually means east, where the sun rises, right? The place of Zerach, Mizrach, right? Ha Shamash, Vayiman. So again, like we had before, prepared Elohim. Ruach means a wind, right? Kadim. So again, this is the same root, both Dalad Mem, meaning in front of or before, right? And also east, right? Kadim, coming from the east. Charishit. So charash means to dig, and here charishit means like it's a digging wind. It's a vehement wind, right? Vatach. So again, like the tach we had before. Hashemesh. The sun. Sun is apparently can be feminine or masculine. They're saying it's common. Let me see here. Sun, yeah, they're not saying whether it's masculine or feminine. I guess it gets used as both. Noun feminine and masculine. So here it's being used that in the feminine. Al Rosh Yonah. So al is the preposition with the ayin. Rosh meaning head, and it's in the construct form with Yonah, right? The head of Yonah, right? Jonah's head. Veyit alaf. So ayin lamed pei means weak, I believe, and it's in the reflexive, which to cover. Huh. Overlaid. So I don't know if you remember, we had in the prayer of Jonah, I believe in chapter 2, where he says hit atef, right? And that got translated as to faint. And here, I guess alaf also means wrapped. But I'm used to the word meaning become faint. I think it gets used even in modern Hebrew as to become faint. In Genesis 38, it's used as to wrap yourself. Right. I think that was Rachel. There. Yeah. Right. Vayit alaf. So literally, he folded up. I guess he covered himself. But he grew faint is how I would have translated it. It isn't a hitfile. It's in reflexive form. Vayish'al. So the root here is shin aleph lamed, which means to ask or to borrow. So he wished, he asked. Et nafsho, the direct object marker nefesh, meaning soul. Nafsho, his soul. Right? He asked for his soul. He asked for himself to, right? Lamut, to die. Prepositional lamed. This is the infinitive of mut, which we had before, which again, like he said before, Vayomer tov moti michayai, it's better for me to die than to live. So he's kind of repeating that. Vayomer, and he said, right, Amar, tov, right, better, it is better, moti mechayai, exactly the same as we had previously in the chapter. Okay, King James, verse 8. And it came to pass, when the sun did arise, that God prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat upon the head of Jonah, that he fainted, and wished in himself to die, and said, It is better for me to die than to live. Okay. Verse 8. When the sun arose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die and said, It would be better for me to die than to live. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I mean, same thing. Now it came to pass, when the sun shone, that God appointed a stilling east wind, right? So the Harishit, I guess Rashi, we'll read the Rashis there. And the sun beat on Jonah's head, and he fainted, right? Yitalaf, and he begged to die, and he said, My death is better than my life. So let's read what Rashi is saying regarding Vayit Alaf, right? He fainted. No, that's Harishit, sorry. Our sages say when it blows, it silences. Oh, so Harishit, right? So a Harish is somebody who's deaf. No, somebody who's mute. Sorry, Harish. Yeah. It silences all the winds because of it, and it is very hot. So does Jonathan render silencing. So Gittin 31b and the Targum Yonatan, the Aramaic translation. And I'll just note here, right, when he fainted, Rashi says pasmer or pamer, right? This OF is Old French. Rashi lived in Worms, which is in France, and he spoke French. So oftentimes he will give a translation into Old French, medieval French. Okay. Next verse. Vayomer Elokim el Yonah ha'hetev chara lacha al hakikayon vayomer hetev chara li ad mavet. So this is kind of why I actually, I guess, really like my own translation of hetev chara lacha, right? So, well, it was lach before, but are you very, right? Hahetev is, so which verse was that? That was verse 4. So if you remember, Vayomer Havaya Hahetev Haralach. So it's using the same words over and over again as it did in verse 4, right? And it's saying, Vayomer Elokim, right? So God said, El is the preposition with the aleph. Yonah, right? Hahetev chara lecha, right? So in verse 4 we had Hahetev chara lach, right? In the feminine. And here it's Hahetev chara lecha in the masculine, right? The only difference is that the lech, lach became lecha, right? For you, second person masculine, feminine singular became second person masculine singular, right? So is it right for you to be so angry? Are you that angry, right? al hakikayon, regarding the kikayon, right? So preposition with the ayin and kikayon with the article. Vayomer, and he said, Heitev chara li ad mavet. So I prefer the way Chabad did it, which is Heitev isn't really going on right. It's kind of um, modifying his anger, right? And he says, yes, I am very chara, right? I'm very flared up or angry, right? Heitev charali, for me. Ad mavet, even unto death, right? Ad means unto, mavet, like we had before, is death. Let's see how this gets translated. Verse 9. And God said to Jonah, doest thou well to be angry for the gourd? And he said, I do well to be angry, even unto death. Yeah, that's not how it translated. NIV, but God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry about the plant? It is, he said, and I am so angry, I wish I were dead. Okay. Let's see what Chabad does with it. And where do we go? And God said to Jonah, are you very grieved about the kikayon? And he said, I am very grieved unto death, even unto death. I would be translating both verse 4 and this verse 9 in that way, personally. Up to you how you want to do it. Okay, next verse. Verse 10. Vayomer Havaya ata chasta al hakikayon asher lo amalta bo velo gidalto shebin laila. Oh, okay. Haya uvin laila avad. Interesting. The word vin here. We'll look it up. Okay. Vayomer. So, and God said, right? This is Amar again. Havaya is the tetragrammaton. Ata, that's the pronoun, second person masculine singular. Chasta, right? So, lechasot het samech he means to have pity, to have. We say chas v'shalom, right? Which means pity, I guess, to be merciful, right? Right, chasta, you became, you had mercy, you had pity for, right? Al hakikayon. So preposition with the ayin and kikayon with the article, right? Asher, which is the pronoun relative, right? Which, for which. Lo amalta, lo meaning not. The root here is ayin mem lamed, which means to toil, right? Hard work, I guess. You did not do any work for, right? It grew by itself. Bo. Lo amalta bo, right? Prepositional bet, third person masculine singular. So kikayon is actually, is it? Yeah, it's masculine, right? Which you did not work on it, right? You have labored in. You have not labored in. Yeah. Velo gidalto, right? So conjunctive of, lo meaning not. The root is gimel daled lamed, which means to be big or to grow. Gidalto means you did not cause it to, you did not grow it, right? Yeah, gidalto. You didn't raise it up, right? It's in the PL, right? Which is, I guess, megadel. Yeah. Gadalti. Ani gadalti. I grew up. Or ani gidalti. I caused to grow up. the intensive for some reason seems to be to raise, as in to make grow. Yeah, because it does also show up in the pal. Okay, shebin, right? And I think bin comes from between bane. No, so it's apparently a form of ben, of son, but it's with a chirik. I'm wondering why it's with a chirik here. Shebin Laila Haya. Sheben Laila Haya. I'm wondering why. Oh, okay. No, but Ben is often in the construct form. Maybe it's because of the shin before, the prefix before? Haya Uvin Laila Avad. I'm not sure why that turns into a chirik. That Ben turns into a chirik. Maybe, I mean, does Rashi say? Bin, one night. Literally one night old, like Ben Lila. It grew only one night. So Rashi says it's just like Ben, but he doesn't explain why. Don't know what to tell you. Maybe, I mean, I'm guessing possibly there are people who talk about it more than Rashi does, but the only other place where I know that Ben is written with a chirik is Joshua ben Nun, which we refer to Joshua ben Nun as bin Nun as opposed to Ben Nun, because we say that he was adopted of Moses, and because Moses was like his father, when we refer to his biological father, Nun, we call him bin Nun in order to indicate that. I guess here it's somewhat similar, uh, but it's with a chirik. Not sure why. Might simply be because of that prefix. Not sure. Anyway, so Sheben Laila, it was of a night. Haya, it was, right? That's the perfect form of the verb to be. Uvin Laila, and in one night, avad. So the root here is aleph bet daled, which means to be lost or to be destroyed. And I think we've had this before in the book of Jonah. Mitabed means to commit suicide, because it's the reflexive form of avad. Okay, verse 10, King James. Then said the Lord, Thou hast had pity on the gourd, for the which thou hast not labored, neither madest it grow, which came up in a night and perished in a night. Yeah. NIV, but the Lord said, You have been concerned about this plant, that though you did not tend it or make it grow, it sprang up overnight and died overnight. Yeah. Chabad. And the Lord said, You took pity on the kikayon, for which you did not toil, nor did you make it grow, which one night came into being, and the next night perished. Yeah. Okay. Last verse. ואני לא אחוס על נינווה, העיר הגדולה, אשר יש בה הרבה מ12 ריבו אדם, אשר לא ידע בין ימינו לשמאלו, ובהמה רבה. Okay. So this is it. I mean, it sounds like a question in the Hebrew. The words don't actually say it, but ve'ani, so conjunctive of. Ani is a pronoun first person common singular. The less formal anochi is the more formal. Lo meaning not. Ahus is the first person common singular imperfect of that same chas, right? Het samech he, I thought the root was, but this makes it seem like it's het vav samech, right? Hus. Yeah, that makes sense. To look upon with compassion. Yeah. Uh, and I'm not going to, right? You chas, right? In the previous one, but I shouldn't, right? Achus. Um, Al is the preposition with the ayin. Ninveh is the name of the city. Ha'ir, the city with the article. Ha-gedolah, right? So it's one. Ir Gedolah is together, so both of them are taking the article, right? Ha-Gedolah and Gedolah, as usual, is Bemilui Vav. Asher is the pronoun relative. Yesh. Yesh means there is. They're saying it's an adverb, I guess. Yesh, there is, right? Bah, within it, so prepositional bet, and that hey has a dagesh in it, a mapik, to tell you to pronounce it. That's why it's bah with a dagesh in there. In it, harbe. So harbe comes from the same root as rabah, right? Much, reshbet, hey. Harbe, mish, more than, right? Mi shtemesre. So prepositional mem. Shtemesre is 12, right? Shtem, 2, esre, meaning 10, 2 and 10 times, right? Mi shtemesre ribo. So a ribo is 10,000. Yeah, it's a number. It's a particular number. I mean, it means lots of, but ribo is 10,000. Adam comes from Adam, right? Man. Asher, pronoun relative. Lo yada, right? Does not. And yada is, again, to know the more intimate way, does not know. Bain yamin, so bain means between. Usually it's bain kach uvein kach, but here it only has bain kach lekach, right? Between this and that. Bain yamino. Yamin literally means right. Yamino means his right. The hand is implied. Lismolo, small meaning left. And again, with prepositional lamed meaning to, lismolo, right? To its left. Uvehema rabba. So conjunctive vav, behema is is domesticated animal. That's where the word behemoth in Hebrew comes from. I mean, in English, behemot is the plural. Behema is the singular, but behema rabba, much livestock, right? Rabba, again. So the ribo, harbe, right? You see the alliteration there. All right. Okay. So let's look at King James. And should not I spare Nineveh, that great city wherein are more than 6,000,000. 6,000,000. So they actually took the 120,000 and they translated it into an English measure, I guess. Persons that cannot discern between their right hand and their left hand, and also much cattle. Yeah. NIV. And should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals. Yeah. Let's look at what Chabad does with this. Now should I not take pity on Nineveh, the great city, in which there are many more than 120,000 people who do not know their right hand from their left, and many beasts as well. So Rashi actually is translating this very differently. So he's saying that the ones who don't know are the children, right? But the beasts, adults who have intelligence of beasts, who do not recognize who created them, right? So he's saying the beasts is actually referring to the people, to the adults who should know better. Okay, so I am going to check to see if there are any comments or questions. If there are, please feel free to ask. Uh, so Jason asks, so sometimes none of the three original radicals are there after the inflection. That only happens when you have weak radicals, three weak radicals, right? Haita, I guess, kind of does that sometimes. If you're asking about tach, right? All that was left is that chaf, right? The one original radical. The I don't know if I mean with latet to give. I mean that one's so strange that I guess sometimes none of the original. I guess it's no. It always has a tough in it. So you were asking about the chaf, yeah. No, I can't think of any place where none of the radicals show up, of the three original radicals show up, but the weak radicals, right, like hey, yud, hey, yud, nun, these disappear and change radically, right? A lot. Some of the other ones, like ayin, aleph, right? The gutturals can kind of like, but it's nun, hey, yud. Those three really, and that's why the verb to be is just so strange in the Hebrew, right? It's because it's hey, yud, hey. Those are the radicals, and it's like all over the place. Um, right. So that was the tach, right? So when we were talking about the striking, right? Where were we talking about the striking? Right. So he says. So in right vatach, right in verse 7. So let's go back to verse 7. And the tach, right, vatach, so that's conjunctive vav, so the vav isn't part of it. The taf is actually not, is also not one of the radicals, it's part of the inflection, the conjugation. The only thing that's left is that chaf sofit, right? And the root was hey chaf hey. So the only thing that is a chaf sofit. Is that what was confusing you? Is the chaf sofit? The chaf turns into a chaf sofit, but it's the same letter. It's the same radical. The radical is hey chaf hey. Well, actually, they're saying nun chaf hey. All that's left after the inflection is just that chaf, and because it's at the end of the word, it turns from a chaf to a chaf sofit. But that's the exact same letter. You're right. The sofit, yeah, that happens. Quite understandable, no problem whatsoever. Okay, but a sofit is just anytime that letter shows up at the end of a word, it will be in the final form, and that's just basically to tell people that the word is ending and the next word is the next one. So the hey, both the nun and the hey. So oftentimes when you especially when you have this, you have the perfect, right? When you have the perfect, the hey at the end, oftentimes one of the first things that just absconds is the hey at the end. So the hey at the end leaving is just to be expected. Here, because it's a nun at the beginning, the very first of the three radicals is a nun. Yeah, that's or I would probably say hey. Well, they're saying nun. I can agree with that. Nun chaf hey. Yeah, the first radical and the third radical are both, the type that just disappear on you. Not a strange thing at all. Okay, let me see. Any other questions? Seeing none, I am going to finish off, as I always do, with Zephaniah 3:9. Where is Zephaniah 3:9? Ki az epoch el amim safa berura likro chulam b'shem havaya le'ovdo shchem echad. So, for then I will restore to the people a pure language, so that they may all call in the name of God, and to serve Him with one accord. Amen. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to come either on my Discord server or to come onto the Paul Vanderklay Bridges of Meaning Discord